everyone, this is Charlotte, and this is a podcast called Chatting and Doing Stuff. Once again, I'm driving, unfortunately, that's where my time allotment is. There's a disclaimer to start this podcast because I do talk about sensitive topics, although this shouldn't be one, really, theoretically. There's also a disclaimer because I do swear a lot, and that I do. I do that. I don't care. We're all adults here, and if you aren't, then you're not supposed to be watching. If you don't want to hear me, you don't have to listen to it. And again, these are just opinions or ideas. They're just shower thoughts. It's not gospel. You don't have to agree with me. I don't mind if you have different ideas, to be honest. I'm interested in all ideas. So if you want to throw one in, have one of your own. Everyone, what do they say? Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. Some people don't, though. If you think about it in medical terms, some people don't have assholes. And again, some people don't have opinions because they like to be followers. Random tangents. Okay, so the topic for today is... I had to write it on my hand. Support networks. I'm currently rushing to work, so if I seem a little bit short-fused today, don't stress. I'm 4 minutes late, and it gives me the shits. I have issues with time. I have to be there on time. It's possibly ASD, it's possibly conditioning, where the result of not being on time would be violence, you know. Parents are fine. Support networks, speaking of parents, lack of support networks, we all need them, to be honest. The tricky part is actually finding ones that will actually help you in what you're trying to do. It's integral to have some kind of support network if you can get it. For example, even the superficial networks at the moment, for example, my physical work, my teaching work is a network of sorts. Would I invite them to my house for coffee? No. Sorry, they're just cutting trees. But I do need them to some degree. Humans are somewhat socialized creatures. If we exist within a community or society, we tend to rely on each other, whether we like it or not. Even looking at the shops right now, I'm driving past the petrol station. At some point, I might have to pull in there and have to rely on someone to get some petrol and hope to God they're competent at their job. I hope so, although they have cocked up before, so I'm like, how do you fuck up petrol? It's like, how? But you know, it's part of the human condition to want to build some kind of connection, whether it's social connection or a romantic connection, familiar connection, as in family. It's an instinct in us to want to build together with someone or work with someone, form friendships with someone. The tricky part is finding reliable situations or people in which you can actually flourish. Sorry, I don't know if that's too loud. Growing up, I had a tricky situation. Ooh, that is a coppin' full. That's one of the SWAT cops. What are you doing here? Okay. He's kitted up. I live in a dodgy neighborhood, so when you see SWAT cops, you're like, what happened? Do I want to know? But you know, we all want connection of some sort. Growing up in a tricky situation, there was a network in that it was my family unit, and I say unit because it's hard to build emotional connections with people who tend to be emotionally unavailable, and they are very private. There's a lot going on even with my siblings, who I got on the most with in my family, that I just don't know about, and we don't tend to tell anyone anything because, you know, my parents were uber secretive when we were growing up, and they said don't tell anyone fucking anything. So when it comes to sharing information like I'm doing now, this is an alien concept to me. I'm not used to it, so I do tend to info dump. At the start it was more like the novelty of it, but now I'm just trying to understand my brain as well. One of my dad's favorite lines was don't talk outside the family, and of course that covers up any kind of abuse, whether physical from my mom or psychological and emotional from both of them. Raised by berserkers, you tend to go looking for a network of support somewhere, and I found it, to be honest, in school, which was weird, because most of the kids generically they don't like school because it's considered difficult, but to be honest it was safer than my home life, and I felt way more comfortable around these teachers, probably why I became a teacher now. And my peers were not the popular bunch, we were the weird ones. It was a case of not fitting in, so we made our own group. So it's like, don't care. But that was a good social network to learn social skills. I never, to be honest, fit in with a popular group, which was I probably didn't take on their traits, their behaviors, which were, even at the time, somewhat disruptive. They were going out drinking and partying even in high school. And I'm sitting there thinking, none of you fuckers are taking school seriously. And to be honest, as we aged and we all grew up, and some of them got pregnant early and pretty much fucked up their life, you go to see how your priorities are, sorry, my stub's kicking, how your priorities are justified, and the decisions you made were actually the right ones, even though you didn't particularly know it at the time, but you were being told that's what you do, don't do what they're doing. And my parents were very enthusiastic in enforcing those, physically enthusiastic in enforcing those moral judgments. Probably unnecessarily, to be honest, but you know, we didn't know any better at the time, and it was such a normalized behavior that we would even get to school and compare notes with our friends. Well, I would. I used to live next door to a guy called Nelson and his brother Daniel, same age, of course, same year group, and we would hear him screaming on the other side of the fence. And then, of course, we get back to school the next day and say, what was fucking going on, sort of thing. It was like, what did you do? It was never a case of my parents are fucking abusive. It was a case of, what did you do? And, of course, that blame and shame side of things, it was normalized in us because obviously we'd done something to deserve this shit kicking we got. Obviously. It was never a case of thinking, oh, possibly the violence wasn't the right thing to do, but, you know, it was so normalized. And, of course, you made these almost trauma bonds, not in a negative sense trauma bonds, but bonding over trauma with these friends and neighbors that you grew up with. And it banded you together, helped you make friends. Weirdly. And of course that is a military tactic as well. They tend to traumatize cadets and privates, if you call them privates, I can't remember what they're called really, at that particular level, and it bands them together against the common goal, which is, or the common villain, which is usually like a drill sergeant or someone just above them. He you know, it's a weird tactic because obviously if you're in the workplace you want to all get along, but it is a useful tool for promoting cohesion, is to create a common enemy, which is this person that's stressing you out and treating you like shit, seemingly, in order to, you know, band together and work together and think that's the fucker and we'll go get him together. It was the same for us as kids, as siblings. We all banded together as a common network against my parents, who were deemed the villains, and they were, because you shouldn't be kicking the crap out of your kids. But that built cohesion between us, which is interesting now because my mum seems to be guilt tripping us and trying to mind fuck us against each other, which is interesting to try and break the ranks. So I don't know what that's doing there. I do know what's going on there, because if she pits us against each other, then it's a competition to see who can make her happiest, and that's the golden child, and we should want to make her happy. Narcissistic trait, of course, and boomer parenting method, but you know, it's a strange thing. That authoritarian, not authoritative, but authoritarian is like, I'm the boss and fuck anyone who says otherwise, sort of thing. We see it a lot with politicians these days, strangely enough, whether it makes logical sense or not what they're doing. It's like, I'm the boss, dictatorial. But again, you'll find that the lower echelons, there's no real, there's a perceived hierarchy, but there is not a real one. It's an illusion. You'll find that the lower echelons tend to band together in the right conditions. Now, if you want to pull apart those collaborative skills or associations. Like if you wanted to demolish a community, for example, you'll pit them against each other, just like my mum's doing. We're seeing in America, for example, that you're finding men are being pitted against women, ethnicities against other ethnicities, social classes against social classes. What we need to find in that particular instance is the root cause of that, which is ultimately rich people exploiting poor people. And if you keep this lower population in a sense of disarray, they won't band together and beat the shit out of the upper classes. So that's the fear at the moment driving that whole premise, which is why they've all invested in nuclear bunkers at this point, because they're afraid of the people. They are very afraid. I think they've figured out that money doesn't buy protection. Not really. Not when there's enough pissed off people to just, stomp them. But that's a whole different story. What we want is productive networking. You could have productive networking with those guys if you want. You just got to make sure that it's for a common cause that is ethical, that is protecting the majority of the people on the whole, that leads somewhere strategically with a goal in mind that is not going to, fuck up everyone. You could talk about the Hero's Quest arc, where they all band together, form alliances, and good conquers evil. You could go into that if you want to talk about narrative inquiry. Probably not, considering we've only got 15 minutes to get to work. Can I get over? Can I get over? It's so squishy. We are in peak traffic and I only got 15 minutes. This is good. It's a school I like. I don't mind if I'm late. They know me. But, growing up, you need productive moral compasses. The tricky part is that we live in such an age of disinformation or misinformation that we don't know what's right and wrong. We do, because we have a conscience and we can possibly, if we have some form of empathy, reflect on what other people's actions might feel like if it was us, and so we don't do them ourselves. That is the ideal situation. But, we tend to create grey areas. Not as an autistic person, of course. I'm black and white, and I'm like, that's wrong. I'm not doing it. Or that's right. We should encourage that. It tends to be very black and white. But some people create grey areas to justify what they're doing and what they want to achieve, which is not bad if you're trying to find allowances, or maybe just like a half step into achieving a goal, for example. Like looking at my apartment right now, my main goal is to upgrade it, essentially. I've planned out 3 years for it, because last time it took me 3 years to get the deposit for this apartment. So I'm like, if I plan out 3 years again, it will be a solid upgrade. But my network of people, which is a very nice guy called Sam, who is a mortgage broker, has said, you can actually do it earlier. And I thought, you said that last time. It's like, yeah, you can actually do it earlier. So I'm sitting there thinking, I need to create a half step sort of situation. The whole thing would be a case of look at how much I can borrow, and then get a bridging loan, for example. That's my half step. Now, I normally wouldn't, because that's a grey area and I don't like the idea of it. The add-ons and extra bills in case, I like to do things very clear cut and regimented. It's less shady. I don't like hidden areas where I can't see where extra shit's coming from. But this bridging loan is an idea for me to get there where I want to get to quicker. And to be honest, I'm not particularly interested or happy with the area I'm in. It's a bit dodgy compared to what I thought it would be. I thought it would be like where my brother lives. It's not. So there are situations where you can justify grey areas being formed, but they have to be constructive. They have to be leading to a situation that doesn't hurt anyone. In fact, that grey area that Sam suggested promotes growth, because it means that I can get to where I want to and work on my further projects, which are past the current one I'm trying to achieve now. Justifying bad behavior in a social circumstance because you didn't know any better, or because she knew what she was getting into, for example, or I was drunk. It was like, that's not a justifiable grey area. So anyone who's saying that it's okay to promote those kinds of mindsets are not your network. They're not a support network. I had to look at my theme then. I'm going, they're not a support network, because ultimately that kind of shit's going to get you in trouble. Anyone who justifies, for example, coercive rape, and says, oh, but we were just junk and we didn't know what we were doing, and it's like, it's still a crime, they will be the ones that get you into shit, because they're trying to justify what is obviously the wrong thing to do. They are a support network which enables negative behaviors and traits. And to be honest, you need to avoid those fuckers, because they are going to fuck you up long term. Anyone who's encouraging things like binge drinking, drug taking, anything that's illegal at this point, and I mean legal in the traditional sense, not in the sense like ICE is a legal entity that come and drag people out of their houses. That's not legal. That's a bullshit grey area that someone's created. That's no. That was not why they were formed, unless it was why they were formed, and ultimately the American government is evil. So we've done this before. I saw this in Germany one time. So no, you can't justify shit behavior. You know what's right and wrong. You know it. We all inherently know it. We all have a conscience, and we can all reflect, whether we want to admit to it or not, whether our actions are going to be good or bad, or have a lasting effect, a ripple effect on our lives and outcome, basically. Because you cannot think about what would it feel like if I was in that situation. So when these people who are part of your crew or group are trying to justify shitty behavior because, oh, it's fun, or oh, it'll be fine, or you know, and you can actively see that it's going to be a shit experience, you're probably going to get fucked for it, then those people are not good people. They are guilty by association, to be honest, in any kind of situation where you're destroying something, a person, a place, your life, and they need to be fucked off. The difficulty if you've had no support networks growing up, like I had forced support networks, like I had no choice but to go to uni, because my parents were like, you're going, you don't have a choice, you're going to get at least one degree. And to be honest, I did not have a good relationship with my parents, and what I did mainly the first time was out of fear of fucking up, because there were consequences to fucking up in my household. It was, in a sense, a support network in theory, but without feeling. The lines were there. The instructions were, it feels like a lot of my childhood was based on theory sides of things. It's like the idea is there, on paper it looks good, but behind the scenes it's fucking painful. And then your parents come up behind you and say, well, it worked out, didn't it? I'm like, fucking assholes. No, I'm traumatized and I have to go to a therapist, or had to go to a psych, because of your parenting methods. You psychopathic fucks. It worked out, didn't it? And then they justify it. We did the best we could with what we knew. It's like, violence? You thought violence was a good idea? You thought beating the shit out of it until it does what you want it to do is a good idea? No, not the best. How about negotiating, talking to it, trying to relate to it, trying to emotionally connect with it, trying to justify why you think this is a good idea, mediating the situation without having to beat the fuck out of it. Nah, it's quicker if we do it this way. The fuck? What is this torture device? When does the waterboarding start? Why do you keep doing this? Doesn't make sense. I got a fucked up sense of humor. Anyway, dark humor is fun. You need to find ethical support networks. Don't rely on the heavy-handed tactics of previous generations, hoping that at some point, because it worked for me, it'll work for you. It didn't work for my parents. They're nut jobs, and they passed on a lot of trauma and pain through their own behaviors and actions. My kid, if I had kids, they wouldn't have that, because I wouldn't bother doing that. I know that it doesn't work, and I know that it hurts exceedingly. So it wouldn't make sense to pass on that kind of behavior and trait. That's not a learned experience that I would pass on to my future generation, knowing how much it hurt me. But my parents, who seemingly had a lack of empathy, deemed it fit to beat the shit out of us. So it's like, that's not a support network. Holistically, in theory, it worked. But it worked because we aimed to become what our parents weren't, or to go the other way, to just look at someone and, like anti-role models. We use that as anti-role models. Like, I will not turn out like my mom. I might be a teacher as well, but ultimately her behaviors and traits, nah. And my dad was a good anti-role model if you wanted to not smoke and if you want to actually look after yourself and your body and things like that. So it's a perfect example of what not to be. And sometimes those support networks are the only thing we can work with. So if you can try and find some good in that situation, the silver lining to the cloud, then it's probably the best thing you can do. Not everyone gets these wonderful role models to copy or to emulate, to associate with, to be mentored by. Not everybody gets them. But what if you do find a good mentor? Go and fucking get in there, because they're like diamonds, dude. I've got a few older teachers I use as mentors because they're just so fucking wonderful. My teachers in high school I fucking loved because they actually took the time to listen to me, and they gave a fuck about my education. That's one of the reasons I became a teacher, because what my parents weren't giving me, which was emotional connection, my teachers were. I had to make up situations that filled the gaps. Now, sometimes that doesn't work, because sometimes you pick life partners which are completely undermining your situation, because you're hoping that at some point it's going to all click in and something's going to make sense and they're actually going to start giving back to you that thing that you need. And that's called trauma bonding, and it's codependence, and you should probably avoid that. The trickiest part is deciding when to leave. I found, like, I waited 16 years for some real shit to go down with my ex-husband before I figured out this fucker ain't giving back. It took 16 years of a lot of me being given. It took less time with the fuckwit afterwards. My ex-boyfriend, who wasn't actually my ex-boyfriend because he didn't like labels, so that should have been a red flag. I don't know who the fuck he was. Fucked if I know. But you get quicker once you can recognize situations that aren't working for you. And if they're not working for you, get the fuck out, because it will cost you a shitload of stuff, if not maybe your life and sanity, to stay in situations that aren't fucking working. They are not support networks if they're not helping the situation. If they are creating burdens or a hindrance to your projects or your mental health. I mean, my ex-boyfriend was just making my fucking already established CPTSD worse, because he was fucking abusive, physically, sexually abusive. My ex-husband was only psychologically abusive. But at the same time, it's like he was making the situation worse. I think that's why it was harder to leave my ex-husband, because it was all subliminal cycle, you know, it was only little stuff compared to the outright complete red flag, which was the ex-boyfriend that came after him. That was easier to get rid of. I'm going, this is fucked. I'm not doing this. I'm not carrying this retard for the rest of my fucking life. Excuse my French. I am allowed to say that though, because I'm ASD. Technically, I'm a retard. Don't say that. I don't know. It's a 90s term, part of my generation. We need to find a way to get rid of it, I think. Apparently it's not acceptable anymore, although it was in the textbooks. I don't know. Big discussion there. We'll have one about that later. But the thing is, but there is that double meaning where it's not an actual differently able person, but a person who is choosing to act differently able. So it's like a lie. I don't know. I'll get into that later. It's a double standard, which creates the negativity, not the actual fact of being differently able. Okay, so I'll get into that one later, some other time. That's an interesting discussion. I will go into that later. Find the networks that promote positivity, and I don't mean false positivity where it's only, I want to see the twinkly lights, I don't want to see the full inferno that's going to, you know, get rid of all the shit. As I said before in the self-sabotage episode, the fake lights don't fucking work. Okay, you need to find a network which is productive enough to be able to call you on your bullshit. Don't just go with the, we're all nice to each other because it's the right thing to do, and we don't want to all look bad. If some weird shit's going down at work, you want to make sure that you've got a band of people that are loyal to you, that could be potentially whistleblowers if you need to. Don't go for the fake people who are going along to get along. I'm just here to get paid. I don't really care what happens as long as I get paid. That's how you get like Epstein links. That's some fucked up shit. You need a solid network who will call you on the bullshit, who will, find the bad links, that will find essentially the moles and the rats in the situation and get rid of them. Hoping that these fuckers aren't there is not good enough. You've got to be aware that they could potentially be there, and that's a potential threat and a liability to what you want to do with your life and your goals. Don't associate with these fuckers. Don't get into the mind games and think, oh, this is fun. We're going to have fun in the workplace, start fucking with people, because ultimately it will fuck you in the long term, because you never know who's going to be sitting above you at some point. It's like shitting on the way up. It's like, don't shit on the ladder on the way up, because at some point you're going to have to go down again. Just keep it professional, make sure that they're doing the right thing, and don't get too emotionally involved, because once you get emotionally involved, can I come over, guy? It's not going to be business anymore. I mean, like, for example, I would never date someone at work, because it's just, you're just mixing shit. It's oil and water. You shouldn't be mixing those two together. Work is work. You get the money, you get in there, and you get done. Relationships are a lot more different. It's in-depth emotional connection. It matters more. Money you can make any other fucking day. Relationships, marriage, to me, are everything. They're the central point of my life. And that is a trauma response, I'm afraid. That is, and it's because I didn't have it. Which is why I invested so much in my marriage, my ex-marriage, because it was the center point of my life. And I know, to be honest, I'll probably do it again with the next one if there is one. But business is business. You keep it separate. You don't mix, you just don't mix it. At some point, you're going to have to either quit or fire people, or it's going to have to change direction or something like that. And you need to be not emotionally invested in it enough to not be able to change, to not be able to adapt. And you could say the same for relationships, because at some point you're going to have to pull out and you won't have a choice. You could still love that person, but if they're fucking your life up, you're going to have to leave, because it is fucking your life up. I had to do it twice now. So it's a lot more heart-wrenching, because like with my ex-husband, I wasn't ready to go. I still loved him when I left, but I knew that this fucking person was toxic as fuck for me, and I couldn't go with him on this journey of exploration into open relationships. I know I couldn't, because I'm just not designed for it. You need to find someone who is very easy with their body. I'm easy with my body. I'm a monogamous nymphomaniac, dude, but I'm not gonna fuck around. I was like, I don't give a fuck how insecure you are about feeling wanted. I'm not gonna pass myself around to make you feel like you've achieved something by collecting people. I'm just like, no. I'm not designed for that. I pick one and I stick with it. That's what I do. That's what I've always done. That's what I'm comfortable with, yes. But at the same time, I know that no one else needs to get hurt on an exponential level. If one person needs to get hurt, that sucks, yes. But several people at the same time, because you decide to fuck around? No. It's like, no, that's selfish. One is enough. You don't need to go around hurting multiple people because you need to fuck around and find out. But that, I did an episode on open relationships. I equate it to cheating, to be honest. I'm like, there's no way you could, I don't think you could romantically love someone more than people. You probably like them or like what they do for you, but to be in depth and in the blood love, probably not love. It's not. That's probably just like inconvenience, to be honest. It's like, I collect people, I love them all. You fucking don't. You like the legs on that one, the tits on that one. It's like, you like that one's got a paycheck. It's like, you don't love them. You like what they can offer you. You like bits of them. You might like bits of their personality, but it's never an in-depth love where this is the only person for me and I don't want anyone else and no one else exists. That is love. That is die for someone love. And no one's fucking doing it these days because it's too easy to throw someone away. That's a whole different conversation I'm not going into though. Support networks. Let's try and keep it G-rated. That's a lot of crap on the floor. Support networks, and I have to wind it up now because I'm coming into work. Try and find people that are doing something similar or better to you. If you know that you want to go in a particular direction, you want to get to a particular goal, and the people around you aren't pitching in, they aren't helping. In fact, they're trying to distract you, maybe going out partying or shit like that, then they're not going to help you. They're actually getting in the way. They're taking up your time and your resources, particularly if you need money to invest in things like buying an apartment or stuff like that. If they're taking your money away because you want to belong to this group, and they're pissing it down the drain because you need to socialize in order to belong to this group. You're buying the drinks, you're buying the food, or you're driving them around because we haven't got a car and we have to share your car because you're the responsible one. They're fucking leeches, dude. You got to get rid of them. They're not helping the situation. They are just your children. Like if you've got a mummy or daddy complex where you were maybe the eldest and you had to look after younger siblings, and now you've adopted some fucking friends who are leeches and are just using your resources, then that's some attachment issues you need to fucking get over, because they are adults themselves and they should be handling their shit. And if they're not, then tell them to fucking grow up and handle their shit. Cut the fucking line and grow some balls. Too many people will take advantage of, you know, someone who's a good person or a nice person who wants to look after other people. And if you're too caring, they fucking love it. They eat it up. So you're really going to have to recognize, look, I'm this age. What was I doing at their age? Is it feasible that they could be doing what I was doing at that age? Yes. Then why the fuck am I babying you? That's a leech. A lot of people do that. I had a few friends like that, actually. I was thinking, I'm not doing that. I'm not here to baby you. I'm not your parent. You are my age or younger, you know, and you're still an adult. 18 plus and an adult. Figure it out. These are not social people that you need to keep around, or a network that will support you. They are actually a drain on your resources. Time, money, energy, psychological stability, because they're probably creating problems as well. Drama. These fuckers love drama. Anyway, you need to build a better network. Find people that are doing the same or better, and then you can have like a mentor situation. And it will... Oh, hang on. I'm going to the other spot. And it will help you get to where you want to go quicker. If you've got the right people around you, promoting the right kind of thinking growth mindset with the right kinds of resources, and they've sent all their energy and resources to the right fucking areas that promote what they're working on with their projects, and you want to emulate that, is probably the best thing to do. The more associations you have that are negatively inclined, that are taking up your time, your energy, your mental health, the worse it's going to be, and they're going to stunt your growth, essentially. So that's what I'm going to leave it with, I think, because I've got to go into work and I'm 5 minutes late. Ooh, I must have gunned it. Anyway, it is Wednesday. That is Odin's Day. I'm hoping you have a fantastic Odin's Day. Take it easy, and I wish you all the best of luck in your projects, and find someone who will help you, honestly. Not that you're going to be a leech, because you're not there to be codependent. You're there to learn from them. Take notes. Find something that you like. Maybe you want to emulate it. Maybe you want to have a go at it yourself. They should be bolstering your goals. They shouldn't be sitting there trying to distract you from them. That is ultimately what we're looking for in support networks. If you want to quit drinking, they shouldn't be drinking. If you want to quit drugs, they shouldn't be doing drugs. They shouldn't be making excuses for you to do drugs or drinking. If you're trying to get somewhere, even financially, maybe you're in a slightly wretched area like me, they should be helping you get along by promoting practices which are maybe going to save you money. Working with you, like I need to rent out my my spare room at some point, because that would be another $300 a week, and that would help us, me and whoever comes with, get to the next apartment, to be honest, if they want to come with. So if I can find someone I can trust, that's a whole nother question. That would be ideal, but to be honest, I can get there on my own, but we get there quicker if I had someone to help me. So I'm not going to be leeching onto them, expecting them to do it for me. We would be working together to get there. It would be a good support network, and they would be able to share my resources that I've already established, because let's face it, it's cohabitation. But it's a good support network to get going, and you'd sort of develop your own goals and things like that. That's just one goal I've got. I've got several others I want to work on, which are independent goals. But it's always good to have a support network which can actually help the situation. Now, if they moved into my apartment, rented the room, and then suddenly, I can't do rent, I'd be like, get the fuck out. It's like, I don't have time to wipe your ass. So I need to find someone I can trust who will make sure they make the payments, and live to a standard which is not going to be fucking up my day. Like, I wouldn't rent out that room to anyone who does drugs, excessive drinking, or even smoking. I don't like smokers. So I'm just like, it's going to be tricky to find someone who's working in the same direction as me. But at the same time, you know, it could be my sister if she comes back from England, or it could be a friend of mine. I don't know. So even I have to look into things like that. But, you know, I do it very cautiously, and I make sure that the person who decides to join my crew is not a complete dropkick, because otherwise I would just kick them the fuck out. It's like, I'm not against changing the locks and calling the cops. You know, it's like, don't fuck with me. Anyway, I'm gonna have to leave it there because I am late for work. I can see people eyeballing me. Whoops. But it's a school I like, so it's okay. Take it easy, and I hope you have a fantastic Wednesday. I'm going to try and do another one sooner or later, hopefully, but again, it's finding time when I can. Take it easy.